Good morning. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. This is Rob Sin at CEO Technician on X, at Goldfinger on CEO.ca, and this is Goldfinger Capital. This morning, I want to make a brief video about a specific technical chart setup. So I'm not talking about the fundamentals here of Talon Metals. I'm just talking about price action, chart setup, and supply and demand dynamic. So the first thing we need to understand about Talon is the share structure, right? And this is something that has been pointed out so many times. Everybody's aware that this has a big share count out, right? And there's even some options, over 100 million of them actually. You can see the average exercise price. So just notice that share count, billion shares basically. Let's just round it off. And there's over 100 million options and warrants, and you can see the average exercise price is, between 17 and 20 cents. So when we're analyzing the price action and this recent rally, it's sort of logical that the stock has rallied up to the 20-cent area, and now it's resting a little bit. Now, this is a weekly chart. Let's zoom into a 30-minute, and you can see it even better. So it had this real markup phase from May 20th to May 26th, reached 22.5 cents, and then pulled back all the way to 18.5. And so now we have these two reference points. It looks like there's big support at 18.5, or at least that's the first level of big support here, and resistance 22.5. And actually, if you look at the level 2, you can see there's a stack of buy orders at 18.5. So the market is bid at 18.5 and it's offered at 20 right now. Okay, like that's pretty much the situation that we have in Talon Metals. And looking at the share structure, that's pretty logical. Just the stock was languishing under 10 cents for months. We've had a run of good news. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the news, but you know what it is, right? Drill intercepts, a potential new discovery, some very high grade, nickel, copper, platinum, gold, right? So the news is very exciting, and it's reawakened this market. But it's important for investors to put this into context, right? Like stocks do not go up in a straight line, right? And Talon, went from 10 cents to 22.5 cents in less than a month, right? That's a very big move, especially when you put in the context of this big share count, right? This big trading float the stock has, right? So that's a very big move. And now it's digesting. So we have to understand that this is normal behavior, especially when the market is now awaiting the next set of news flow, right? We're awaiting assays and maybe some other updates from the company. There's a lot going on at Talon. So it's normal that here, as we get this little quiet period, market is waiting for the update, a little bit of indecision creeps in, right? Some people say, oh, you know what, I'm going to take some profits here. Maybe this has run too far. And then people who may not have gotten in during this run from 10 to 20, they say, well, maybe this is my time to take a position, right? Or maybe people who are already long got even more bullish as they analyzed it further, and they decided, I want to build a bigger position, right? So there's all of that going on. There's de-risking, there's building a bigger long position, there's even a little bit of shorting going on, although I think the short position is immaterial at this point. When you're talking about 900 million plus shares out there, 1 million or 2 million shares is immaterial in the grand scheme of things, right? And that's, I mean, even if you just do the math on how much money that is, that's a few $100,000, right? That's not big when we're talking about a $150, $200 million market cap company. So, a lot of people are going to ask, well, what's next? Well, we don't know what's next, but there's a few possibilities. And one of them is obviously a catalyst comes about here in the near future that finally breaks through that 20 cent wall, because obviously there's been a seller or maybe some sellers that just are using that round number 20-cent level to de-risk and take some off the table here. And finally, when that supply gets worked through, well, maybe it could lift. It could lift to 25. Maybe it could lift even higher. Okay, we don't know at this point in time, but that's definitely a possibility. Another possibility is maybe the news is a little disappointing and it comes back to support, maybe around 15 cents. Hopefully not all the way back down to this support at 11, but probably the 15 to 16 cent area would be the first level of support. And I just want to show an example of maybe a positive outcome, how this could unfold. MAI. So this is from 2019, and this is a situation that I recall quite vividly, and I was actually part of it. I was buying this stock in May of 2019, and I I took advantage of this great share price appreciation that it had in the second half of the year. And there was a similar situation, right? There was a big share count. I think it was over 400 million shares or around 400 million shares, certainly not a small share count for a junior. So similar to Talon in that there's a big trading float. There was a warrant overhang, and I think the warrants were priced at 11 cents. And so it consolidated for months around this 10, 11, 12 cent area. And then finally, I think all the warrants got chewed through or they expired in June. Yeah, it might have been May, it might have been June. But anyway, once it was done, it lifted, right? You can see how quickly it went to 15 cents, right? And then it pulled back. But then this stair step higher throughout 2019 as the gold price did well and this company got a wider following among investors, right? So this was a fantastic example of once the stock is done consolidating and the supply has been worked through, then the buyers can really drive it higher because there's just not that level of supply that's sitting at a certain price level, right? So with MAI in 2019, that was around 11 cents. With Talon right now, just the last week or so, it's at 20 cents, right? And so we don't know the timing of these things, but if it should happen, if we get that catalyst that finally chews through the rest of the 20 cent offers, we could see a very nice outcome, right? And then zooming out to a weekly chart, just look at where it's been in the past, going back to 2022. So, there was a lot of potential upside here if Talon really, is getting its groove back. But again, I don't want to go into the fundamentals. This is just more of a technical talk here this morning. And so it's totally natural as we look at this chart, we look to the left, we look to where it's been in the past. Of course, it's going to consolidate around this 20 cent level. This was a level of price memory and resistance going back to May 2024, and we can even look back further, right? So there's a lot of price memory here, and obviously you have those options and the warrants around this price level. So it's natural the market will rest here, work off some of the overbought condition. A little bit of indecision will come in. The market will do some trading back and forth between bulls and bears, and then we'll figure out where we're going next, right? And so I think with Talon, we might find that out in the next week or two, right? I think this is not going to be a long period of indecision. We're probably going to get that catalyst here in the next week or two, would be my guess. As far as sentiment, some people can get very hyped up around a stock that's moving higher, right? It's easy to do, it's exciting. Company puts out great drill core, great assays, right? It's easy to get excited. And then, you're making money, right? You're long the stock, it's going up, you're making money, it's exciting, it feels good, it's fun, right? But we got to remember that the market is not here to give us the instant gratification that we seek. And especially in the junior mining sector, the time frame is pretty long, right? It's not a day or a week. Things take months and sometimes years, right, to do a drill program, to send off the drill core for assaying to the lab to get the assays back, to put out, like an economic study, a feasibility study to build a mine. It takes multi-years, right? Sometimes decades. So we have to understand that. We have to appreciate the market is not here to satisfy our urges in the ultra short term. And that's why it's important to sometimes curb our enthusiasm, take a deep breath, sit back, and just be patient. Just be patient. If it's meant to happen, it will happen, but not necessarily on our time frame. So some people get really hyped up, especially on social media with their posts and trying to encourage others to get in. I get it, but at the end of the day, the news, the assays, the drill results, what's in the ground here is going to tell the story, and decide where Talon's share price is going to go in the future, right? So let's all just stay calm and stay cool. And thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your attention and your time investment in these videos. And if you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll be happy to make another video about Talon when the time is appropriate. Have a powerful trading week.